Big Buck Profile, brought to you by Apex Gear.
Hey folks, I'm standing here in the Cabela store in Rapid City, South Dakota, next to one of the truly legendary whitetails of all time. In my opinion, one of the most legendary, because this is the Howard Eaton Buck. And it's partly legendary because Howard Eaton himself was a legend. One of the great early explorers of this part of the country, the western North Dakota region, back in the 1870s. In fact, he shot this buck in 1870 when he was 19 years old. He'd grown up in Pittsburgh, had moved out to this part of the world to seek his fortune. And what he had run into when he got out here was a very wild place. He actually ended up establishing a ranch in southwestern North Dakota. At the time, it was just called the Dakota Territory. There wasn't any North and South Dakota. But he established his ranch up there near the small town of Medora. It was one of the last places that Custer's group of soldiers camped before they went on and were massacred at Little Bighorn. So a very historic part of the world in terms of American history, but also in terms of whitetail history. Theodore Roosevelt, who was a friend of Howard Eaton, said that this was his favorite whitetail he had ever seen. And it's easy to understand why. A massive non-typical, just points going everywhere. 19 on one side, 13 on the other. Not wide at all. He's only 15 1/8 inches inside spread. He's not even 19 inches outside spread. So to score 250 and 6/8 net non-typical, you got to have a whole lot of bone, and he obviously does. If you look at it, you'll realize that he's got super mass way up into his main beams, several places over 7 and even 8 inches of mass. That's just really incredible. So even though he only has 2 tines over 10 inches, he really does rack up the score. 75 1/8 inches of non-typical points, in fact. He's just a super cool buck, and the fact he's from so long ago is really just a stunning factor to me that as I chase down these big whitetails from over the years, I realize that anything prior to 1900 is extremely rare. This buck was 30 years before then. Truly a legend of the American West.